Right, we're going on to our next incredible speaker any second now. Don't forget to ask your questions, bottom of the screen, Q&A, like on there, click in, and don't forget to go to the mobile app to see what's going on with all the discussions and networking and pizza competitions and all that sort of amazing stuff, and the virtual pub. Everyone wants to be in a virtual pub. So now we're going on to CVE President EMEA, Paul Frampton. He asks, or he states, again, quite a blunt, controversial statement, we are failing the next generation of Adland. Paul, if you're there, you've got 99 seconds, and even though you're a good friend, I will still horn you off after 99 seconds. So
totally
Paul,
fair, Justin. Totally fair. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to everyone that attends the MadFest events usually. So I'm going to zoom back a little bit, zoom out from bubble formats to something that I think everybody in this conference can help with, which is that we're actually letting down the next generation of Adland. If you don't mind going to the next slide for me. Why do I say that? I say it because pre-COVID, only just over a third of ad companies offered vacancies for school leavers. And since COVID, nearly a quarter of 18 to 24s have been furloughed, more than any other demographic. 9% of people have lost their jobs in that demographic, and graduate recruitment has dropped by 76%. So there are not enough opportunities. If you don't mind going to the next slide for me. And the opportunities that there are given to people that look the same. So a fifth of everybody in our advertising industry went to a private school. That's actually 35% when you look at senior management. Nearly 2/3 actually source from either their personal or their employee network. So we have a real rampant nepotism issue. And bizarrely, we ask for graduates or school leavers to actually have experience in at least one marketing channel when they join, which doesn't make any sense. And the last slide just gives you a sense of what young people, when we ask them through my other organisation, the youth group, what they think about the advertising process. Ironically, we're rubbish at advertising and actually attracting young people, and we need to reset that.
wow, exactly 99 seconds. Even though I was dying to horn you, Paul.
I know you were. Well, luckily I had a stopwatch because I knew you would.
That's not fair. That's not fair. Okay, loads of questions coming in. I think one of this question you'll sort of love. I know we talk about this sort of thing all the time. It's from Eloise, and she says, "I'm sick of seeing my CEO spout BS all over the press about diversity when I see what's really going on. What can I do?"
Yeah, I mean, there is unfortunately, the advertising industry is great at putting out some kind of statement. A not to be named agency put out a statement about people working from home, and then 3 weeks later, the leader of that agency said, "Why there's nobody in the office on a Friday?" You can't just PR something in this world and hope that people won't ask questions. Social media has obviously changed everything. What can you do? I think you need to get other people to constructively take a case to leadership. Don't jump onto social media and criticise your bosses, because that's not going to get you anywhere.
Question here from Nigel. Again, this is a question that's been asked sort of all day yesterday and today. It's, how do you see this situation changing as we come out of COVID?
Well, I mean, part of the reason I bring it up is that it couldn't be any worse right now. The people that are being laid off are the junior ones. Opportunities will be shut down. So I'm asking that everyone here supports things like the Brixton Finishing School, IPA's Creative Pioneers, and other initiatives that actually encourage us to find opportunities to bring disadvantaged, people that don't have work experience into the industry.
Question here from Amy. She asks, what are you doing at your company, and any tips on what's actually worked?
Yeah, great question. So we're starting by having apprenticeships and internships. Even if we're a fairly new company, we set up only in October. We're a marketing consultancy and activation business, and we are very early stage of our journey, yet we already got 2 apprentices working in the business. So even if you're really small, you can do your bit to actually allow people without experience to understand what it's like to work. Work experience is as much about understanding what it's like to turn up, learn soft skills, expectations set, all of those things need to be learned, because if you come out of uni or out of school, you just don't know what the business world looks like. So I would just encourage everyone to think about creating more opportunities for young people.
But just a side note, we're actually making a donation to Brixton Finishing School for every download of the 99 Club mobile app. Loads more questions here, but this is quite a nice one. It's from Anonymous attendee, another shy attendee, who says, how do we encourage companies to be brave and invite graduate applicants at entry level with zero previous experience?
Well, I think it takes a mindset shift, right? I mean, why does someone need to have experience to come into the marketing and advertising industry if we've got the actual training and support systems, mentoring, training set out? I think the reason we do it is because we don't put enough attention into development programs and thinking about the actual path that a young person will go on. We just bring in people that will fill a desk and do some administrative work that is a free resource, as opposed to how are we contributing to actually creating more opportunities, particularly like the Brixton Finishing School does, to people that come from socially disadvantaged backgrounds. Imagine if you come from a council estate with nobody that knows anyone in the advertising industry and you're black. How on earth do you get to join the ad industry when your dream might be to work at TikTok? We've got to be able to try and change that and give avenues for people so that they've got places to go.
Excellent. Question here from Dan, our friend at Journey Further, I believe. He asks, is there a good way to engage school leavers and tell them that marketing jobs even exist?
Yeah, there is. I mean, there's lots of good initiatives, but it means that people here need to take some of their own time to go and actually speak. Right, there are many different programs, and I can share them. We haven't got time now, but I can share different examples with people if they reach out to me. But you need to go and give up your own time. If every person in the ad industry gave up an hour to go and talk to a secondary school, then that single-handedly would make a difference.
Great, cool. Now we're out of time. There's so many questions for you. You always pop this sort of stuff. But I'm gonna like this is just nice to call out. An anonymous attendee says, just wants to say, as a 24-year-old grad who's just been furloughed, along with a lot of my peers, it's great to hear someone recognising this. It's so true. That's just nice to hear. And this is the last question from Gemma. Says, what would be the most important single change employers can make to their recruitment process?
Stop asking for a CV and a cover letter and ask someone to demonstrate why they're so passionate about joining the company, and judge them on that. Don't judge them on a cover letter that young people hate writing. Actually get them to send in a 1-minute video instead. Try that. We do that within the youth group. You learn a lot more about people from that 1-minute video.
Perfect. Paul, as ever, inspirational. Great to see you, and thanks for joining.
Guys, have a good rest of the day. Cheers.
Now, we've now got, now it's everyone's favourite time of the day. It's time for the poll master. So let's see what's going on our poll, Alan.
Well, we finished our first poll of the day, which I've left the results over the other side of the desk. There we go. So the first poll was asking, should brands take an active position on Black Lives Matter? That finished 79 to 21 in favour of brands taking a position, which I think comes along with the caveat, do it well or don't. We've started a new poll. This one is slightly less important, I think. Which is the next big programmatic market? We're going with in-game, digital out-of-home, or audio. At the moment, in-game leading with 47% of the vote.
I'd say audio should have been higher, really, I expect.
Well, I suspect the Spotify guys are hastily WhatsApping around the company trying to get that one sorted. But yeah, at the moment, audio sits bottom. No, hang on. It's just got level with digital out of home on 27% each. Remember, you can go and vote on the poll. That's in the app. Now, I'll tell you, there's one thing that I'm a bit disappointed about today, and that's bookshelves.
Yeah, it hasn't been that many good bookshelves today.
It's been quite poor, I think, if truth be told. And I think the winner so far is probably Zuzana Galinska, Spotify. She had a great bookshelf, nice bit of art alongside her. No one else has really gone for
didn't
books.
know there was competition, but there is.
Well, we've been told to do some serious stuff as well. Don't forget the game as well. That's the game that's over on the Instagram handle, which is on the MadFest handle. What do you think is the best brand activation during the COVID period? So if you don't want to talk bookshelves, go over to the app, go to the Instagram app, and you can find out that game. Right, I'm going to stop bumbling over some words now.
Some quick artwork? We've got time for that?
We've got some quick artwork.
Yeah, I think so. Let's have a quick look.
Oh, look at that. It's great stuff. As ever, this is the great live representation of what's happening today from our friends at Three Blind Mice, who I must have got sore hands. They're working very fast over there. Great stuff. And remember, this will all be available to see on the site after the event. And it's looking pretty good already.
It's nice seeing Pete Markey live on stage doing his comedy improvisation at the bottom.
There is top left. That's Jerry Dakin. Although it looks like Jerry Gherkin the way that's written. Which
Dakin, Gherkin, whoever.
It's unfortunate.
Either way. We've now got Lara Izlan. She's Director of Advertising Data at ITV. I said last night, I said that I wouldn't horn her off, but I was kind of lying. So you do have 99 seconds. And then so we have got the title of, quick one notes, VOD, the Playground for TV Experimentation. 99 seconds. Lara, over to you.
So firstly, this is my slide. You can click to the next piece, please. So Justin, we know there are many academic, business, life examples on the power of experimentation. It's how we learned as children. It's how we've evolved as humanity over time. But despite experimentation being at the heart of modern marketing today, very few advertisers we find have adopted a test and learn approach to TV. Now the myth persists that TV is this dinosaur. You know, it's too big, it's too clunky, too expensive to be agile. But we propose that broadcaster VOD is the perfect playground for marketing experimentation on TV. Next slide, please. And we think the time is now. We know that businesses that adopt a test mindset early on can capture competitive advantage. Yes, VOD doesn't yet have the reach of linear, but the scale and the mix of the addressable audiences today makes it the ideal sandbox for testing. Now, in addition to large screen impact and brand safety, there are three more reasons why we think this. First is data, right? So 10,000 data points on ITV Hub, for example. We can swing between broad demographics to in-market targeting to anything in between to find the optimal audience for the campaign. Two, the roundabout, the feedback loop that ensures ongoing learnings. The logged in environments on broadcaster VOD allow us to link ad exposure to real outcomes. And finally, climb a frame up, and we see how VOD's detailed audience insights can inform planning and creative development as well. Now, we all know TV's trajectory to addressable is clear. We think getting in now with small scale experiments can really unlock big future gains. And this is especially important today with brands under pressure. But if you don't believe me, next slide, please.
Oh, Lara, I have to warn you.
Justin, I think you're on mute. Oh, there you go.
I was muted. I was going to haul you off ages ago. So you had Lara, you're very lucky. Although,
I do have a bookcase behind me. I thought I might get extra points.
Your bookcase is amazing, and I think you go to second place according to Andy. So congratulations. But more importantly, an amazing talk, a really hot subject for everyone across the industry. Let's get to questions because we're short of time as ever. Sure. Gabrielle says, what would be the benefits of using VOD over linear when the CPMs, CPTs are much higher on VOD compared to linear?
So I think we're not saying use VOD over linear. I mean, I work for ITV. I'm never going to say that. I think what we're saying here is add a little bit of VOD spice to your. If you're able to kind of still conduct your marketing campaigns on TV, that's fantastic. What we're saying is add that bit of budget on top of the linear TV to start to test kind of new ways of targeting, new ways of measurement, new ways of kind of looking at audience insights using VOD. Because the addressable element of VOD and those logged in environments that I talked about, adds that, adds the ability to kind of add that layer of data and insight that you may not get at a granular level with linear TV.
Perfect. Moving on quickly. A question from Dan. He asks, how are test results being measured within VOD? If you look at something like YouTube, you have the ability to use holdout tests and to fully understand impact.
So we're prototyping a few different ways at the moment. We're using some partners, and we're also using our own in-house data science capabilities to do this. I think the first and foremost, it is those logged in environments. So the known user base, creates basically an ID spine for us to then match against other data points that give us online conversion data or in-store transaction data or footfall data, etc. So that, the 31 million users on ITV Hub, for example, that acts as our own kind of personal ID spine that we can link to, different business outcomes. And I think that's the main point there. The other point is, what we're not trying to do here is kind of push everyone to the bottom of the funnel, right? So we're not saying, you need to measure all the way down to, actual sale. We know that VOD has the power to play across, TV has the power to play across the entire funnel, all the way from brand awareness to consideration to, and actually driving action. And we want to be able to measure success and against real business outcomes against every point in that journey.
Perfect. Now we're a bit over time, but I'm going to give it another minute just for the bookcase. Rich asks, although the targeting is much more, although the targeting is much better, much involved by TV, do you think creativity is stifled by the creative that you receive? I know there are lots of possible formats, but they are rarely seen compared to pre-roll.
So yeah, we're very much focused on pre-roll and mid-roll at the moment. I don't think it's stifling. I think, we can all possibly be much more open, again, using the data points that we have in VOD to look at creative in a much more fluid way. So I got a really quick example. We had a digital native brand that tested VOD with us. They ran 5 different creatives on random rotation. Ordinarily, they would have looked at some sort of end metric, which was roughly the same across all 5 campaigns. But because we had that addressable element, we could tell them exactly which audience profiles, resonated against specific creatives. And so for the next iteration of that, of their campaign, we could be much more targeted from a creative perspective. And we could also feed back to their creative process to say, these are the elements that seem to stand out and work for prospective customers.
Fantastic, Lara, we're over time, but it was worth it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We're now moving across to another amazing individual, Ellie Edwards-Scott. She's a partner of NDA. We're doing some exciting stuff with her over there. But Ellie, you're going to talk about collaboration, why working together is better, was something we definitely agree with. You've got 99 seconds. Again, you're a friend, but I will horn you off. 99 seconds, go now.
Great, thanks Justin. Right, I haven't got any sexy slides, so I'm just going to have our logo, but it does have the links. It's great to talk about collaboration. So we all know the phrase collaboration is key, but why is it better to work together? Well, one of the main advantages of collaboration is that it's not hierarchical. It brings together people together people across all different levels. This means that you can get diversity of thoughts by working with people from different backgrounds, with different experiences, that will ensure that you get a different perspective. You get to learn something new when you work with people who have different talents and skill sets from you. And this can foster a culture of continual learning. You always also get to examine what your own strengths are as an individual are, as well as areas that you need to improve upon. And collaboration is a great way to get help and learn from each other. And you get to work more efficiently. It's often tempting to kind of go it alone on a project, but actually if a project is complex or demanding, it's great to actually get other people involved with it to make it, help it get over the line. And lastly, it fosters an environment of inclusivity, allowing you to build up new channels of communication and trust if you're working with a new teammate for the first time. So ultimately, companies that collaborate well are likely to be more financially successful, more culturally aligned, and have higher engagement rates. But how do you do it? Define your objectives, look at the type of collaboration, make sure that you have the right people on board, make sure that everybody is on board with working together, and ensure that you foster an environment where everyone can contribute and their voice is heard.
You did it. As ever, was amazing. Now we're sort of time. We had lots of questions coming in. I'm just going to pick one or two if we can. Dolly says, and this is a sort of common theme throughout this festival. Dolly says, "I love what you're talking about. The company I work for sees collaboration as pure evil. How can I convince my board?"
I know it's you know, and it has to be kind of board level down. It has to be that culture. It's making sure that your voice can get heard. It's maybe speaking up in meetings if you're allowed to. When emails are shared, maybe commenting so that the company kind of hears your voice and kind of get your opinion across. Speaking to maybe if it's not the board, maybe some of the you know, senior management team or some of the junior managers, and just getting them to kind of foster that culture of creativity and collaboration. But it should often come from board level down, but a lot of the time you have to go from bottom up and just really kind of push your ideas and thoughts through.
Thanks. We're out of time. This is a great question, so I've got to ask it. Nicholas says, do you think the working from home environments will impact collaboration?
Yes, but it's also an opportunity. So, you know, what you don't get are those kind of you know, water cooler moments where you're just walking past, can grab somebody and have a chat. So you have to kind of schedule that creativity or schedule that collaboration in, but actually can give you an opportunity to speak to people that you wouldn't usually. Reach out to your teammates on Zoom. LinkedIn, everybody's really active on LinkedIn at the moment. So, you know, reach outside your organization, see if other people are doing something similar to you and connect with them. I think everybody, because we are in this strange environment, we do want to collaborate. We do kind of need that environment. So it's a great opportunity.
Ellie, as always, you're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We're now moving on to someone who did a great talk yesterday, Matthew Goldhill. He is CEO and founder of Picnic Media, and his 99 seconds is on why your customers hate disruptive advertising. This is a pre-record video, and we're going live to Q&A questions afterwards. So please do, again, bottom of your screen, ask questions.
Hi everyone, I'm Matthew Goldhill, founder of Picnic. We're a user-first ad marketplace which bring the high-quality ad experiences of social media to the open web. I'm here today to talk about digital disruption and how your customers actually probably hate it. Disruption is something spoken about quite a lot at digital conferences, with brands and businesses being told how to avoid disruption. The thing I find quite funny is there's disruption happening right now, which is never spoken about, and that's disruption to the user's experience. Annoying, slow loading, interruptive ads are disrupting the user's experience as they try to read articles or watch a video as they browse the internet. The thing is, ads don't need to be like this. Ads on Instagram and Snapchat are really effective for advertisers and don't ruin the user's experience. The problem is, however, is that these ads aren't shown in a premium editorial context. This is the problem that Picnic have solved by elegantly serving intuitive formats like stories and posts mid-article on the highest quality editorial content. However, our product is about more than just formats. We want to ensure our ads are served on inventory that is as slick, as fast, and as user-friendly as, say, Instagram. So we've created the first ad format built entirely and specifically for Google Accelerated Mobile Pages, which is Google's product to speed up and standardize and create user-friendly web pages. So this is the kind of disruption Picnic is pushing for. Well, it's kind of the opposite of disruption. We're creating products which are part of a new normal, where advertisers get high-performing, impactful campaigns, publishers get paid properly for producing high-quality editorial content, and most importantly, customers have a high-quality, slick, and user-friendly experience.
Fantastic. Now, hopefully, great 99 seconds. Matthew, are you there live to answer some questions?
Yeah, can you hear me and see me?
Indeed. Thanks for joining us again. So, we've short time, and let's go through some questions we've got here. There's something here from Phil, who asks, again, this is a sort of common theme, but he says, these behavioural changes that you mentioned, what's going to happen, do you think, as we move out of COVID? Are we likely to keep?
Yeah, completely. I mean, what I find interesting about mobile is the word is essentially defunct. It's not a device which people use when they're out and about. It's a device which, as COVID has shown and lockdown has kept us all inside, we use everywhere, including at home. So the way we see mobile is this kind of everything device, and we would just consider ourselves a part of how people use it in lots of different scenarios. And as COVID kind of allows us to go outside more and spend more time, the mobile user habit will 100% persist.
Fantastic. Now we've got another question from Julia. Julia, you're nudging ahead of Natalie in the questions competition. Julia asks, how do you describe a good mobile experience?
Interesting. So A good mobile experience needs to be really intuitive, really tactile. I think the best thing you can do is compare something like Snapchat and TikTok, where it almost feels like you're holding digital paper, and comparing it to something which is kind of taking a visual metaphor from desktop and putting it on a mobile device. So yeah, intuitive, tactile, non-interruptive, all those things can be as engaging, as impactful on a smaller screen.
Fantastic. Well, just out of time, but again, loads and loads of questions still coming in. So obviously a great talk, and we'll get them to you afterwards and answered over the next week or so on NDA. Thanks so much for joining us again. Matthew, thanks for your time.
Later.
Now, moving again swiftly on, quite interesting, this sort of segues neatly from the last talk. We've now got a 99-second talk from Harvin at Xandr, and his question or his proposition to the audience is navigating the news landscape. Again, something that's been so top of everyone's mind over the last 3 months. So, Harvin, over to you, 99 seconds, or you face the horn.
Thank you. So, with the current news climate of COVID-19, social unrest in the streets, and wider political turmoil, advertisers looking for brand-safe placements for their digital adverts are understandably hesitant. They need a way to protect their brand investment. To do this, they often use keyword block lists. These are lists of hundreds and often thousands of emotive terms that they wish to avoid appearing next to. I do not believe that this is a good solution to the brand safety problem. Blunt keyword blocking means advertisers often filter out neutral or even positive news stories, preventing them from having a conversation with highly engaged users. Because of this, premium publishers, the same premium publishers that we're looking to as a source of trusted news, they're missing out on a critical revenue stream. Of course, there's going to be some news stories that are simply not appropriate for brands. But keyword blocking is a blunt instrument and leads to far too many false positives. Xandr spoke out about this when we announced our platform support for Mantis, an AI-based semantic tool created by Reach and built on IBM Watson technology. Mantis filters out content based on sentiment, and this is a huge leap forward from keywords. Testing showed that 70% of coronavirus content was being blocked by brands unnecessarily, and that Mantis would allow them to cut through to serve in a brand-safe environment. It's vital that advertising industry supports publishers to produce great content, and in return, publishers can continue to support society by providing it with trusted, hard-hitting news that the public really needs and wants to see. Thank you.
Fantastic, and just in 99 seconds, amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, we've got lots of questions coming in, very, very topical. And Emily asks, how have things changed over the last 3 months? We saw so much attention on this issue at the start. Have things got better?
Yes, I think things have definitely got better. So when the COVID crisis started, we saw a complete block. And then since then, the tools that advertisers use have been refined. They have been tweaked and fine-tuned. So definitely the situation is getting better. But I think actually this problem isn't just a COVID problem. It's a problem the industry's had for a really long time. But COVID is kind of, like most things, really exacerbated it and shown where some of the cracks are.
Excellent question here from Fatima. How are we seeing marketing budgets allocated to publishers changing over the COVID, and how do you expect this to continue as we leave it?
Yes, I think that's a really good question. The first thing is, I think we've seen creatives have changed. So obviously having creatives of people touching each other or hugging, that's a bit of a no-no. And we're seeing a lot more creative that are quite clever and featuring COVID in a positive way. I think also what we saw was advertising basically just completely stopped. So a lot of, especially in certain verticals like travel. The good news is we are seeing green shoots of recovery. So I'm hoping things will start to edge back to normal.
Fantastic. Question here from Rich, slightly questioning. Although I agree with your approach to stop blunt keyword blocking, can IBM Watson Tech also take into account negativity in general, given that this is one of the biggest newsworthy factors and brands don't necessarily see a positive uplift alongside negativity?
Yes, I think this is a key point, right? We need to stop using keywords like COVID or disease and start moving to concepts. So I think if a brand can express itself in the kind of content that it wants to be near, does it want to be near cheeky content? Does it want to be near family content, irrelevant content? Whatever it is, if a brand can decide what type of content it wants to be near, at the same time, it's automatically defining what it doesn't want to be against. So I think what I'm saying is rather than using block lists, we should move to a situation of brand suitability, where brands are expressing what content they want to be on rather than expressing what they want to avoid.
Fantastic. I think we've reached the end of your time. Thank you so much. Great answer questions and great night answer talk.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Now, we're moving on quite swiftly. We're getting through a lot of incredible content today. The next speaker up is, I haven't lost my place at all, is Kevin O'Farrell, who's Associate Vice President at Analytic Partners. And his 997 talk is Measurement Can't Always Get You Toffee, but it can help you avoid the orange cream. I love orange cream, so I don't totally agree with this talk already. But let's see what he's got to say. So, Kevin, you've now got 99 seconds to get your point across, and then we'll go to questions. Over to you.
Thanks, Justin. So during the lockdown, I've been using a significant amount of my spare time to eat chocolate and catch up on movies. So one movie that combines both of these passions is Forrest Gump, and the great analogy that life is like a box of chocolates. So I, for one, always want a toffee, but somehow land the orange cream. So we might organize a trade. Now working for a global leader in econometrics, I find this resonates in the world of marketing. So in 2020, while we were working with a lot of brands, preparing for TV cost inflation and shifting budgets into emerging media such as influencers, we're then hit with bushfires, pandemics, protests. You never know what you're going to get. So marketing more than ever needs to be agile and pivot in order to emerge stronger. So being able to address questions such as what type of message works best in these different environments? What's their sensitivity to media across different channels? What's the most efficient way to reach my target? How does brand opinion drive my sales? So we've been working with a lot of our clients or brands, running simulations, shifting to more frequent live models, setting up tests and learns to really help brands dig into these questions and get the insights so that they can avoid the pitfalls of the orange cream. So don't run, Forrest, run, be the difference, use your tools and knowledge to navigate the chocolate box to adapt, evolve and thrive.
Fantastic, and you've done it within 99 seconds, and I don't get to haul you off, so congratulations. Excellent talk. I'm not sure you swayed me around orange creams, but lots of questions coming in. Let's see, first one from Ian, who asks, are you leveraging machine learning?
Yeah, so we do leverage quite a lot of machine learning. We really see it as a strong foundation, but it really does need to be supported and topped off with data scientists, consultants, and human brain power. There's actually just only yesterday, The Economist had a big section on AI not living up to expectations, from areas of self-driving cars and medical devices, and even that is potentially entering a winter that it's falling so far behind. Machine learning can do a huge amount, but it really works best when humans are working with it and really holding its hand.
Perfect. Another shy attendee, Anonymous, asks, what are the biggest trends you're seeing in this market now?
Yeah, so, I guess a big thing we're seeing in terms of in the world of measurement is really the focus historically was very much within media. It's definitely taking a much more holistic view and looking across the entire business. So integrating a lot more data, connecting to, equity metrics, CRM coming back and being a lot more vital operational elements. So really bringing in data from a lot of these different sources and integrating them into the overall commercial mix, really being a big trend. In terms of within the media, we still see obviously the shift towards digital continuing, but the ROIs have been falling in digital, especially as more investment has been playing in and CPMs increasing. So these are some of the bigger trends that we're seeing going on in the marketplace.
Perfect. Okay, last question we can just about get in. It's Katie who asks, what's the value of econometrics now?
Yeah, so I guess, with a lot of econometrics, being backward looking, and especially in this moment of, such uncertainty, it is a question that some brands are asking. And as mentioned, with a lot of brands that we're working with, they still have targets to meet, they still need to understand, they still have these questions about, which message to get out there, which channels, how do they optimize? And it's really about, being more agile, gathering, feeding in data on a more frequent basis, of having much more live updates of models, doing more tests and learns, and building out a lot more simulations to account for that uncertainty in the marketplace. That we see by being more agile and bringing these in, that that brands are really leaving money on the table by not capturing this.
Kevin, amazing. Thank you so much. Great to time. Thanks for joining us. Moving straight on, I'm not getting to horn off anybody today, really. Yesterday I horned almost everyone. That's disappointing for me. But now I think we're going to go over to a bit of poll news. Andy, the poll masters, actually.
We can talk polls, or should we talk bookshelves?
Let's talk bookshelves.
Right. I want to talk Matt.
Yeah.
Matt had an interesting approach. He had massive bookshelves, absolutely massive. Didn't have enough books. I think it's
a bookshelf better.
Well, only if you've got the ammunition. If you've got good bookshelves, you need good books. So Matt, you're a nice guy, but you need to work on your standing.
So Lara in the lead.
No. I think Lara was pretty small. I think so far Susanna's bookshelf, excellent, with its proximity to artwork. Cool.
That's the top insight you've heard here first. Bookshelf challenge is going on, but also don't forget the networking challenge on the app. Go and join in, do some networking, win a prize, be a top networker, and beat Ian from Madfest.
The way you do that is go to the app. It says shake. You press it, you shake it, and it links you with people you already know. I'm sure it linked you with other people though. It'll link you with lots of other people. Let's try that later.
So get in, start shaking.
Shake or tap to connect. There we go.
Or you can tap, but shaking.
You can tap, but shaking is more fun.
Get your phone out and give it a shake. Amazing. Have we got time for any artwork? I'm not sure we have. Maybe we have. Looking at the time. No, we don't. Okay, moving straight on to our next presenter, next 997 talk. It is Massimo Paradiso, who's a producer at ITV. Obviously, it's very close to Lara, I imagine. It's a pre-record. We've got live Q&A afterwards. The topic of the talk is how UGC technology is shaping the media industry. So please ask your questions. Again, the Q&A box, bottom of your screen, type them in. I'll try and get through as many as possible. So without further ado, let's cut to the video.
Hello, my name is Massimo. I'm a producer at ITV Creative, and I wanted to talk about UGC technology and how that's changing the game for TV advertising and storytelling. We recently did a project called the People's Outbreak, which is where we requested the British public to get involved and recreate some of their favourite ads from the past years, and we worked with 5 brands to do that, which you can see on the screen now. And it was important for us at the time because we were quite restricted with what we could do in those early COVID lockdown, and we normally go out and shoot, but this was all done from the public's homes. And we'd always had UGC ideas floating around, but this seemed like the good time to do it as well. And speaking to colleagues, I assumed there'd be a flood of submissions coming in. So we engaged Meappy. We worked together on this with our .com team, pulled together a great campaign, and it was picked up and received really well. And Campaign did a little piece saying that the brand recall was actually better than the original ads in some of the instances, which was good to hear from our perspective, but also a big thumbs up to the public. Going forward, this UGC content was always an idea, but now that we've done it and we understand technology is there, it gives us the confidence to go forward, pitch more of these ideas, and just understand the process from end to end. And we're already working with Meappy on the next project, which we're hoping to release in the coming weeks. So yeah.
I think Massimo now is joining us for live Q&A. Massimo, are you there?
I am indeed. Hello, Justin.
Great, and you're joined by Freddie from Meappy, I believe?
Yeah, he's there as well.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you so much. Fantastic 1907 chat. Sorry, we had a bit of a technical glitch here where I went off for a second. I've got a few questions here to get through, obviously in a tiny amount of time. Bahar asks, do you see brands moving away from equity metrics to behavioural metrics?
Well, Justin, I'll be completely honest. In my standard producing kind of role, in that the brands that come into us go in by the commercial department, and I'm very much more an executor of what we come up creatively on that side. So as much as I'd love to be intelligent enough to answer that question, I think I might have to move away from what I do at ITV there. Freddie, I don't know if you found anything your end that works in that regard.
I think behavioural metrics, of course, are incredibly important. But I think the focus for this project was certainly within the content and the role that the content played. So, apologies, not a clear answer there.
course. Got a question here from Jill, who asks, what's the biggest challenge for UGC generally for brands at the moment?
I mean, when it comes into ITV ourselves, I think engaging with the audience is always the main thing there, because you don't have UGC unless you get the audience involved. So it's finding something that they want to get their claws into. I mean, lockdown was a good time to do it because loads of people were sitting at home with not really much else to do. So we got really good engagement with that. And some of the brands aren't necessarily looking to hit anything on the head on the pitches that we've been working on. It's more about getting the public involved and just having a bit of fun is what we've been seeing from the contacts we've been having with brands. And I think if the public want to have fun, then they'll certainly jump on and have fun, judging by the amount of, well, everything that you can see on the internet from the public realm at the moment.
This is a nice question that sort of follows on from that. Seb asks, how do you see the barriers of creativity being overtaken at the moment? I guess what he means is, how's COVID driving high levels of creativity?
It was great for us in terms of kicking our creativity off in a different manner of thinking. I mean, it's unfortunate to think of. I hate to use World Wars as examples of that, but people have to change their way of thinking. And I think in the creative industry, we were stripped away of our basic tools, which were going out and filming. That's what we do day in and day out. So I think looking online is the kind of basis for that. We're a big broadcaster. We try and make everything look quite good and glossy, but it seemed the thing that we needed to do was look more to the digital world. And videographers have been doing this for years, and they've got all their kind of separate technology and skills and engagement with people in that way. So we just think knuckled down into that digital world a bit more and stepped away from the television side and investigated a bit more, which we didn't really do, but I think was very important for us to do. And now we're doing a lot more in that realm with upcoming projects as well.
Perfect. Got one last question we get in here. It's a nice big question to put to you. Aimee asks, what's the one biggest challenge for next year?
Well, I think ITV as a whole, our challenge is just getting back we're a commercial company. We need to get that advertising revenue up. It's been a bit of a seesaw because while that's had a bit of an impact, so I'm sure everyone's been talking about COVID, we've also had a great boost in the share of viewing and people and getting those bums on seats and the eyes on the screens. So continuing, it'd be great to keep those bums in the seats while also getting the advertising up, and hopefully advertisers can look at us and say, well, the figures are shooting up, so now's a good time to be releasing our wallets and start advertising again in a bigger capacity.
Massimo, Freddie, thank you so much for your time. Amazing presentation. Thanks for answering the question. Hopefully see you again soon. Our next talk is Aimee Foubister, who from Channable, who's talking about rethinking e-commerce and how marketing can help. Great subject. You now have 99 seconds or face the dreaded horn. Over to you.
Thanks, Justin. So in just over 3 months, my grandma's gone from not knowing what a marketplace is to joining Facebook, becoming an Amazon Prime member, and even ordering her weekly shop online via Tesco. Crazy. So what? Well, it's shown us that brands and agencies do need to rethink their e-commerce marketing, as nothing is going to be the same for advertisers, both online and offline, for the rest of 2020 and potentially ever again. But how? Well, now is the time to try new things and definitely look into optimization to help you save time to be able to try these new things. I'm sure that you've all learned a lot about your visitors and consumers over the last few months. So let's use these learnings to adapt and change. Look at Primark, and sorry Dawn and team if you're listening, but due to their closures of their stores because of the pandemic, they went from making £650 million in February to nothing by April, purely based on not diversifying and having a strong e-commerce presence, which they could lean on to keep the sales going. Next slide, please. Now, the only question left to ask, which of these channels are you going to try now to diversify your online presence post-COVID-19? Thanks.
Fantastic, and within 99 seconds, superb. In fact, exactly then. Thank you so much. There are lots of questions coming. It's a hot topic at the moment. And we've got one here from, what's her name? Abigail, who asks, what's the role of different marketplaces? And I guess she means, we're looking beyond just eBay and all the different ones globally around.
Yeah, so you're typical consumer who would shop on Amazon probably isn't shopping on eBay. So it's really important to know your market and to, you know, as I said, diversify and just try new things. So yeah, you know, for example, in the UK, eBay is massive. Go to the Netherlands, eBay is not massive. So it's just really important to know your market, know your consumer, and yeah, try new things.
Perfect. And the one here from Arjun, who asks, how important is it to have a global outlook when you're coming into this market?
Yeah, it's important, and especially with obviously COVID and obviously Brexit, everything that's going on at the moment. I mean, we've seen a massive influx in our, you know, UK-based clients who are now advertising on Amazon and NL, Amazon, you know, US. It's super important to, you know, diversify now if you can, launch new markets, launch new countries, because if you were just stay stagnant in the UK market with everything that's going on, you know, the economy, look at Europe, there's some great economies going on there. So yeah, if you can diversify.
There's a good question here, and again, it's quite sort of granular. Nick asks, for service-based businesses, how do you see them adapting?
Yeah, really interestingly, we have a client who is business B2B normally, selling gym products. They've been using us for a long time for Google ads. They have recently just diversified into selling their products direct to the consumer via Amazon and eBay. So super important. If you are in a service industry, if you can diversify, you know, can you sell that product, the products that you're adding as a service, can you sell them direct to the consumer separately as well? Give it a go.
Fantastic. We've got, I think, one more question now, and it's from Quentin, who I think we asked a question earlier, but who asks, what differences are you seeing across different platforms? I guess he's talking about mobile and online.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for example, in Amazon, like, you know, the sales are through the roof. Like, one of our clients this morning told us that he's had a 183% increase on his Amazon versus his desktop mobile web shop. So really important. Obviously, we focus on getting them to the export channels. So just try, you never know. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that's a great way to end. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for answering the question.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Right, moving slowly on towards the end of the day, or let's say fast towards the end of the day. Our next speaker is Seppi from Carwow, who's talking about shark attacks and advertising, another pretty intriguing title. So you have got, Seppi, 99 seconds, pre-corn, and time to go is now. Remember, before we start, sorry, but at the bottom of the screen is a Q&A icon. Type it, and enter some questions. You'll just get some before the day ends. Seppi, over to you, and start now.
So, after seeing several television programs on shark attacks, you might start to think that such instances are relatively common. Perhaps when you go on holiday or even visit a UK beach, we might choose to either change our behaviour or refuse to swim in the ocean, just because we believe the probability of an attack is too high. In reality, it's actually incredibly unlikely that any of us will die from a shark attack. To be exact, it's about 1 in 264 million. However, when we all make advertising decisions about our customers, our brains are hardwired to remember things we've heard recently, or to recall our own personal experiences. In short, it's called recency bias, a completely natural but problematic human trait. And now, more than ever, especially during COVID-19, we're far more likely to let news and social media influence our decisions, and therefore how we choose to run our businesses, rather than truly understanding customer needs. So, what's the solution to this? In short, turn off the news and turn on a pipeline of real customer data. At Carwow, we've partnered with LiveRamp to offer data from actual in-market consumers directly to automotive advertisers. One of my favorite personal quotes is from management consultant and author Peter Drucker. Selling is about finding buyers for what you already have, and marketing is about listening to buyers and then designing products, brands, and services that sell themselves. It's our mission to help advertisers make cars sell themselves by simply better understanding true consumer behavior versus speculation.
Wow, perfect. No, yeah, just in time. Congratulations. So let's move on to questions. Got lots flooding in, but we've only got a couple of minutes. So let's start off with Fred, who says, lots of news saying customers are waiting to buy cars due to government scrappage schemes. Do you see this happening?
So this is a perfect example of recency bias. So as an advertiser, you might see such articles in the paper that says everyone's holding out for a scrappage scheme and therefore decide to say, do you know what, I'm going to hold my campaign back until there is such a scrappage scheme because consumers are not willing to buy. In reality, if we move away from recency bias, that's such a good example, and we use data from aggregators such as CarWow or other research platforms, we would see that inquiry levels and intent from customers is the highest it's been all year. So quite the opposite of what we're seeing in the papers.
Excellent. Okay, question from Dan, who asks, how does this work in line with GDPR and what's the future for this with the death of third-party cookies?
Great question. So I think you had Graham on earlier from LiveRamp. He had a great talk about trust. LiveRamp is our chosen partner because of the way it works. So LiveRamp take care of this in a completely GDPR compliant way. I'm sure they have lots of experts that can explain this much better than I can, but essentially there's a unique user ID assigned to a user within an audience. So it's not cookie based and it's completely GDPR compliant.
Perfect. Okay, I've got a question here from Lauren who asks, love the idea of recency bias, but how can I turn this to my advantage in my campaigns?
I would say you can turn it to your advantage simply by not falling victim to recency bias. The vast majority of us do. It's completely natural. It's completely understandable. Simply find a platform or data source that shows you real customer behavior or intent rather than just relying on speculation. I'm not sure what Lauren's industry is, so it's hard to comment, but I'm sure there's some research platform where users can inquire, whether it be forums or research sites.
Excellent. Question here from Pam, who asks, you mentioned listening earlier on in your talk. What tips can you give me for the best tools for this?
Tools, well, the best partner that we've chosen is LiveRamp in this case. LiveRamp makes it really easy, not only for CarWow to buy audience data to help us, but also to open up our audience data and data to a range of advertisers, whether they're in automotive, FMCG, or any other industry.
Fantastic. So we are just to the second out of time, so thank you so much for a great talk and for answering all those questions. Thank you so much. We're now moving on to our next speaker, who is Joe Hayes, Sales Director at Audience Project. Another pretty interesting title. We've got 99 problems and audience measurement is one.
We are a panel-based research and technology company based in Copenhagen. Our primary focus for brands and agencies is audience measurement. Now, a quick distinction between the Nordics and the UK is that in the Nordics, it's standard on every campaign to measure your audience buys with a third-party verification partner, whereas in the UK, it isn't. We buy audiences, but we measure impressions. So we don't actually know if the media we're buying is reaching a target group, which is crazy. And it's a big problem. So we need to understand the extent of that problem. First, you need to ask, do you spend money on online advertising for or on behalf of the brand? And if you don't, probably in the wrong presentation. If you do, then you need to then ask if you're using a third party to measure audience reach for your online media activity. If the answer is yes, then you're in the enlightened minority. If the answer is no, then you're in the 84%. That's to say that we estimate that 84% of the UK's top 100 brands aren't measuring their audiences online. So does the fact that none of this audience buying or none of this media is being measured, does it concern you? If it doesn't concern you, you're probably in the wrong presentation. If it does concern you, then now's a perfect time to start, because the benefits of measuring your audience online can bring deduplication of reach and frequency across the media plan, including within the walled gardens, understanding the incremental reach of online video versus TV, and getting clarity on which data partners are actually helping to reach target audience. And up next is Sam Gaunt, who's the former head of media at Lidl and now founder of The Working 50, and he's going to be discussing digital wastage and the issue of audience measurement in marketing. I think I've got 4 seconds left, but I haven't got a joke, so apologies.
Fantastic. Superb talk. You did it under time, and who needs good bookshelves? So we've got some questions coming in. We're literally against time. So there's a question here from Kerry, who asks, you'll talk about measurement. What are you most excited about in the sector next year? Pretty broad question.
It would be, well, shifting the 84% down. You know, if you think when I joined 2 years ago, our Audience Project, 90% of the market was unmeasured. At the moment, it's at 84%. If we can shift that number down to 60% next year, then I'll be probably a quite happy sales guy, but also more importantly, we'll have a more measured industry. So ideally, you know, every brand would measure the audience reach. So it's a bit of an anomaly in the UK market. So yeah, I think driving that 84% down would be an achievement for measurement.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, it's a question here from Rich, who says, I believe in the Nordics, TV has now become smaller versus SVOD and YouTube. Do you envisage this being the case in the UK soon? And do you think that's why there is a renaissance with TV buyers? Resistance, sorry.
I think TV buyers are very used to the old way. And I think in the Nordics, they shift from a very kind of linear way of measuring things to what now is, you know, what we would call quite a modern way. And, you know, I think we're reaching an inflection point where we're going to have to change just because the amount of kind of connected devices that we're all on now. So yeah, I think we're almost having a renaissance moment. I know it was kind of misquoted, but yeah, there is obviously resistance because effectively what you're doing by measuring your audience is that you're actually finding out whether what you've been selling or buying for the last decade was actually accurate in the first place, which is obviously quite an uncomfortable truth.
Fantastic. Gavin says, so what's the inflection point in the UK? I guess he says, you know, what's...
Yeah, so the inflection point is, to be honest with you, the arrival of being able to measure. A lot of the old ways of doing it was very much restricted to age and gender, whereas now we're able to measure far more granular audiences than we were, say, 3 years ago. So there's very much a case where you know, buyers weren't able to measure before, and there wasn't necessarily the availability of a third party to do it. And now we're in a situation where there is a third party to do it, and they can measure the audiences that are being bought online. So that's why we're seeing a kind of increase in brands coming to us and asking us to help them with that solution. So we're expecting that to change quite significantly in the next 12 months.
Thanks very much, Justin. And thank you, Joe, for teaming me up in your presentation. I want to discuss the importance of measurement in the context of marketing waste. Although it was as head of media at Lidl that I got to grips with the problem, any brand would benefit from more simplicity and efficiency in their digital marketing. But this ambition runs counter to the sheer complexity of the digital landscape. It takes time, people, and technology to unpick it. And when you do unpick it, you do discover the issue of waste in digital is not restricted to just viewability, brand safety, and an opaque supply chain. It's also created by poor quality audience data. Next slide, please. The idea of digital precision is based on the assumption that we can target very specific audience groups. The quality of second and third party data underpinning those audiences is highly variable. To illustrate this, just look at your Google ad settings and see who Google thinks you are. In my case, it's got my age, gender, and business interests spot on. The vast majority of data about my supposed interests is completely wrong, and advertisers are buying it from Google, Facebook, publishers, and a plethora of third party data sources. All those sources need to be properly measured, and the advertiser is the one who needs to drive this forward. There's a simple factor that everyone else profits from wasted impressions. Next slide, please. So the advertiser must appoint the right measurement partners directly and use them to understand and address the issue. It can't be delegated to the agency. But the agency should look to help solve the problem by working with those measurement partners to better interrogate data and inventory quality. And they should rethink their remuneration models to better reflect the work they do in reducing digital waste. Because only when everyone's profit is found in quality rather than impression volume will we solve this problem. Thank you.
Fantastic, Sam. Amazing talk. 99 seconds, bang on time. So let's have a little chat. We've got a few minutes left. We're slightly over time, but there's questions coming in. This question here from Warren. I think this goes back to Valentina's presentation at the start of the day. Warren says, what's your view on the death of the third-party cookie? You've been around, Sam, you've seen it all. What do you think is going to happen?
Do you know, I have to say, I think the death of the third-party cookie isn't all a bad thing at all. I think what we'll end up with is a web of, it's going to be very good quality logged in information, and the rest of it will be kind of pretty much the open exchange, and it'll be much more around contextual placement. What we'll kind of end up with is moving away from this illusion of how data and cookie data can help us to be very targeted, and moving back towards actually really thinking carefully about the context and the broad kind of audiences which different publishers are going to be reaching. In that sense, it's actually going to be great news for publishers as well, because it really favours those publishers which have got fantastic good quality content and very strong scale audiences at scale, and good data on their own audiences as well. I think where we're currently going is there's an awful lot of money going towards this long tail of publishers, and that's not necessarily the best context for brands to be seen in.
Perfect. Question from Vanessa, quite amusingly. She says, I heard you talk very interestingly on in-housing. That's still a big trend. What's your view on it now? That might be, Sam, when you and I talked back at John's Back Punch a year or so ago. So what's your view on in-housing now?
I think it's for every brand, it's going to be a slightly different situation they're faced with. And there's no one size fits all. The one thing that every brand really needs to do is to in-house strategic decision-making. Yes, use agencies and consultants to help to arrive at the right kind of strategic direction. But really that decision is the advertisers, and they need to make sure they've got the right partners in place in order to make sure they've got a well-informed strategic direction and they're measuring the effectiveness of their investment properly. In terms of what else do you in-house after that, it's very much dependent on what type of brand you are, headcount, and the flexibility to increase resource and so on. But yeah, I think that should always be the starting point. After that, there's definite advantages and disadvantages of what kind of tasks you bring in-house. I think there's an awful lot of kind of mixed results that advertisers have had from bringing that in-house. Whether it actually delivers significant return on investment will very much depend on the type of brand.
Perfect. Now, I think we're going to move on. That's the end of your slot. Sam, thank you so much. Great to see you. Thanks for your time. Thanks so much.
Very much.
Now we're going to move on to Seb. We're running a little behind time. We're 8 minutes behind time. I'm very sorry. That was all on me. I do feel ashamed. The last speaker of the day, but before we go on to competition winners from our poll master, Andy, the last speaker of the day is Seb Bardin, Global Head Acquisition and Marketing at Unilever. And again, Seb was launched the 99 Club back in February. Seb, you've got 99 seconds. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Justin. Sorry for the title, but I wanted to cover a different title, which is how is COVID shaking up the digital media landscape. And to start, in the face of one of the world's worst healthcare and economic crisis, business and industries had been forced to come up with new and innovative solutions. And this innovation, I think, is going to move faster than we've seen before. And I had 3 observations that I've seen based on the daily experience. The first one is the local community. So what we've seen is local businesses, from your butcher to your PT, had to innovate or die. And and they managed to enhance their business with a social media presence and moving closer to you with local Facebook groups, but also social media platforms like Nextdoor. This is a massive opportunity for for the future, and also for the self-serving ad industry. And what we also managed to see based on this is we are moving into a new ways of payment, online payment. So PayPal that launched the QR code, WhatsApp payment in Brazil. So we are moving closer to a social media model that we've seen in China. 2 other observations are the rise of e-commerce. So we know that e-commerce rose by 83 to 100% year on year. Massive opportunity for retailers like Ocado to offer on-site advertising and drive additional revenue from media. And my last point is the shift in the digital media landscape, where people want to have more feel-good content. TikTok will be a massive player. It will be a 4-horse race between Google, TikTok, Facebook, and Amazon. And then finally, the next slide. To conclude, I just want to make sure that innovation will happen based on what is happening on the social landscape. As Obama is saying, this pandemic has exposed some of our deep issues in the society. And I agree with him, we will need to look at what worked, what didn't work, and the old ways of working won't work anymore.
Perfect. You're bang on time. 30 seconds, 1 second over. So thank you so much. Great talk from the day. Let's see if we can get through some questions we've got. Got a question here from Sasha, and some of these are quite big questions, but I guess it's your position. Where Sasha says, what are you seeing in terms of innovation and how that's changing or growing during this time?
I think it was during this time. It was not really innovation. It's more people adopting technology, adopting digital communication. I think what will happen, we'll have a period of a couple of months where new people that have been furloughed, people being at home, time to reflect. This is where I think the innovation will happen, because we will find new ways that will be more effective to do what we've been doing before.
Fantastic. Okay, we've got another question here from James, and he asked the same sort of thing, talking about, he says, how is creativity changing in your eyes and the sort of campaigns you're getting involved with? I guess he means again during this time.
I think it was quite interesting. Again, is what we've seen is two different, in terms of creativity, we've moved a little bit more on the emotional side, a little bit deeper in some of the campaigns that we've seen, but also some of the campaigns played a role of, driving education. So how to, washing your hands, how to use, different home care products. So what we've seen is it was a mix, but also in terms of creativity, it plays an important role in terms of bringing actual value to the consumers.
Fantastic. We've got one last question, then we're going to end the day. And this comes from Gilly, who asks, what's the role of your own first-party data in adapting to this new reality?
So the way we've, again, used first-party data, it's more, again, to bring much more, I would say, education around our products to the consumers. So again, is like, how to use bleach, for instance. We run a campaign around this, and providing more information around, the fact that, for instance, you need to put gloves, or how to mix bleach with water. So we went on the route of really providing information about, around hygiene and how to, to protect yourself with, against, what's happening outside with virus and germs.
Seb, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. We're going to end there. Thank you so much for your time. Hope to see you again soon. Right, everybody, we're wrapping up now. We've come to the end of another frantic but fun-filled day. I'm going to hand over to my co-host Andy to go through a few key competition stats.
Well, what a day it's been. First and foremost, networker of the day. In second place is Theodore from Siemens, but absolutely hammering him. Was Radu from Force 24, who I believe, because it's written here, is a new MadFest partner. So congratulations in many ways, Radu. We've got the winner of today's competition, which was on Instagram, and that was, what's the best COVID brand activation you've seen? Well, the winner is Frankie Dakin from JKR, let's get that right, who chose Nike for their Living Room Cup campaign, which was indeed excellent.
Prize coming his way.
There's a prize. I'm looking. There is no prize.
There's no prize.
Do you know what? Sometimes it's just about winning. Sometimes it's about winning.
Honor.
Take the win. Yeah, take the win. There's the artwork, which we'll give them the artwork. We'll see the artwork. And we've got some amazing speaker highlights for tomorrow, which I'm just going to run. We've got Starling Bank, we've got O2, we've got Heinz, we've got Twitch, and we've got Radisson Blue. Well done, also Susanna Golinska for winning the Bookshelf Challenge. Thank you to all our speakers. We're all off to stare at some closed pubs. Thanks very much.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.